Welcome to my channel. This is JC Rock and Metal Reviews. My name is John. And for today's video, I'm doing the rockers we lost in the year 2020. Now, in order to keep this an appropriate runtime, I'm only going to include musicians that have had like a profound effect on me throughout the years. Most of them are musicians that fall under the category of rock and metal, but there are a few others that are musicians that are from other genres. So let me get right into the list, and then I'll say a few more words afterwards. These are in chronological order, by the way. So the first one was Neil Peart from Rush on January 7th, 2020. This was a really big one to start out the year. I mean, many consider him to be the greatest drummer of all time. I'm a big fan of Rush. I grew up listening to their albums in the 80s, Moving Pictures. That's a really big album for me. You know, I listened to his other albums in the 80s, like Signals, Presto, all of those. He died of glioblastoma, which is an aggressive form of brain cancer. This was definitely a big loss in the music world. It took place like right in the beginning. And this was like the end of the band Rush. He was 67 years old. Next, Mullin, Corrosion of Conformity on January 27, 2020. He was the co-founder of Corrosion of Conformity. This is another band I'm a fan of. You know, I used to jam along to the song Albatross on my guitar. I used to love the song Vote with a Bullet. And he was 53. Next, I have Jason Rainey from Sacred Reich, and this was on March 16th, 2020. He died of a heart attack at 53. He was the rhythm guitarist of Sacred Reich. They are a thrash band. They were big in the early 90s, but they made a comeback in 2019, which was a pretty cool album. Next, on March 20th, 2020, Kenny Rogers. He was a very popular singer when I was growing up. You know, he's not a rock or metal guy, but he was around during my childhood. I know he died at the start of the coronavirus lockdowns, and, you know, people saying that, you know, he kind of knew when to fold them. You know, he left like right at the beginning of this thing. He was 81 and he died of natural causes. Next is Adam Schlesinger on April 1st, 2020. So he was from Fountains of Wayne. Now this is one, was kind of like a little scary when we heard it, because this was like the first COVID-19 death for like a rocker, or one of the first that we heard of. It was at the beginning of the pandemic. He was young. He was 52 years old. Fountains of Wayne was a pop punk band. They're popular in the early 2000s, and you probably know them from the hit Stacy's Mom. Next, I have Frankie Banali. He's a drummer from Riot and W.A.S.P. This was on August 20th, 2020. He was a great drummer. You know, he was the guy with the drum solos in the beginning of the Metal Health. So Metal Health was the first album to hit #1 on Billboard, and that really led like the influx of like 80s metal. Next I have Jack Morris, Sherman, August 18th, 2020. And he was an American guitarist, and he's also the second guitarist of Red Hot Chili Peppers. Now there's a band that I don't really talk about much on the channel, but I'm a big fan of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. One of my favorite bands that are not really under a classic rock or metal category, so I want to give him a mention. That's Jack Morris Sherman. Next, Riley Gale from Power Trip, August 24th, 2020. So Power Trip is a thrash metal band. Their album Nightmare Logic, it was released in 2017. This album like stands up to the thrash classics, you know, like Slayer's Rain and Blood or Creator's Pleasure to Kill, those like late 80s thrash classics. I mean, he appeared on the latest Body Count album. He was only 34 I'm not really sure his cause of death. If anyone knows, you can let me know in the comments. And next, probably the biggest one, Eddie Van Halen, October 6th, 2020. This one shocked the music world. It was like a week, like right after I started my channel, so I didn't really give a tribute to him. I did review some Van Halen albums later on. You know, Eddie Van Halen was a big part of my youth, a big part of when I was a young adult. So I first became a Van Halen during their 1984 album. The single "Hot for Teacher" was a big song. It was on MTV a lot. You know, that back then I was 13 years old. I got into Van Halen a lot more like when I was 18. I bought their first 2 albums. I started like playing guitar. I had those guitar tab books. I think it was for the first and second album. You know, back then, you know, the internet wasn't that really widely known, so we used to buy those books. And definitely, he was an influential guitarist. 2020 was definitely a hard year because we lost like the best drummer and the best guitarist like of our times. And Eddie Van Halen was only 65. Next is Charlie Daniels on, actually this is out of order, but July 6th, 2020. So he was an American singer, songwriter. You know, he does a lot of southern rock, country, bluegrass music. We all know him for "The Devil Went Down to Georgia" back in 1979. Now that song was a really big part of my childhood. I had the album, you know, I was a kid back then, but he died of a stroke at the age of 83. And the most recent one is Leslie West on December 22nd, 2020. He was the guitarist for the band Mountain. I don't think I've listened to Mountain albums, but I researched the guy, and it's pretty cool. They formed on Long Island, and that's where I grew up, so that's pretty cool. I love the song Mississippi Queen. It's such a great song. I think it was very influential, for the metal world. So that was real cool. That's Leslie West. And I'll just have a couple more that I didn't mention, but they're honorable mentions. I have a subscriber, Robert Sparling. He's dropping messages every day, and he kind of gave me a list, so I figure I might as well add the ones that I didn't mention. So we have John Prine, Americana singer songwriter. He died on April 7th from coronavirus. Pop Smoke, he's a hip hop artist. He was murdered on February 19th by burglars during a home invasion. Little Richard, he was the rock and roll pioneer, a legend, best known for Tutti Frutti, Good Golly Miss Molly, and he also sang the theme song for TV cartoon Magic School Bus. That one I didn't know, it's pretty cool, a little factoid there. And he died May 9th from bone cancer. And a couple more. There's Midnight Oil bassist, Bones Hillman. Hillman died on November 8th after a battle with cancer. Okay, for those of you who ever watched the show Gilligan's Island, there was an actress who played Mary Ann. Her name was Dawn Wells. She recently died, I think it was yesterday. It was COVID-19 related, and she was 83, I think. I'll have to check that again. So that was really another big loss just for the movie world and the TV world. I used to watch Gilligan's Island when I was a kid, and so that was another one that just kind of shocked us. It just happened. So I'm going to end off my video here. This is going to be my last video of 2020. So to all my subscribers and everyone else who are watching my videos, I'd like to say Happy New Year. You guys have been very supportive. One more thing before I go, I mentioned Van Halen. If anyone is interested in seeing my review of Van Halen 1 or Van Halen 2, they are right up there. Thank you for everyone who has been watching. It's been a fun 2020. Hopefully 2021 will be a lot better for everybody else, and hopefully the world will get back together and everything will go back to normal. So thank you again. Thanks for watching and keep on rocking.